An estimated 100,000 people are expected to be packing up and leaving their crowded coastal cities to make the move to Minnesota in 2025. And these aren't just retirees looking for peace and quiet, they're also young professionals, families, and remote workers discovering what locals have known for years. So why are they ditching these coastal towns for the Twin Cities? Let's start with the big one, which is housing. The skyrocketing costs in cities like San Francisco, New York, and Miami are just driving people away, and so it's no surprise. Every week I talk to clients that are amazed at how much more their money can get them here, and it's a completely different story from where they live right now. So check this out. Housing costs in the Twin Cities run about 10% below the national average right now. That might not sound a lot to locals, but it's a big deal when you compare it to the coastal cities. In San Francisco, for example, you're looking at housing costs that are 152% higher than the national average. And in New York, it can increase by as much as 162% depending on the location. So that's absolutely crazy. But what does that mean in real terms? Well, the median home price in Minneapolis sits right around $340,000 right now. Compare that to San Francisco, where you'd need about $1.4 million for a comparable home. Or in New York, where you'd be looking at prices starting around $800,000, and realistically, you're probably going to be over $1 million. Now, here's where things get really interesting, though. While Minneapolis and St. Paul always have had their appeal, we're seeing an absolute boom in the suburbs specifically. So places like Carver and Rogers, for example, these communities are just exploding with growth. So take Carver, for instance. This is one hidden gem out on the southwest side of our metro that's nearly doubled its population over the last decade. What's drawing people there? It's going to be beautiful new construction homes with all the bells and whistles, excellent schools, and that small town feel, all while being just about 30 minutes drive from downtown Minneapolis. Or take Rogers. This is a northwestern suburb that's become a hotspot for young families that are looking for more space. So with home prices there 10 to 15% lower than in Minneapolis proper, but you're still going to have that connection to the metro, and it's just no wonder why people are making the move. Now, the Metropolitan Council projections show that the 7-county Twin Cities region is expected to add about 700,000 residents by 2050. That's going to be massive growth, and a lot of that is happening out in these suburbs where developers are able to create new communities that blend affordability with quality of life. Honestly, I've never seen this much development happening all at once, all across our region. In just the last few months, I was in 10 different new construction communities, in fact, that are being built with exactly these transplants in mind. People that are looking for economic opportunities with a major metro area without the insane price tag and congestion of other areas. One thing I particularly like about how our housing market is evolving is the variety of options that you've got as well. So we're not just seeing massive single-family homes being built, but developers are also creating townhome communities. You've got condos going up, you've got mixed-use developments that give people more options at different price points. One trend, however, I am seeing that I'm not in love with is these twin homes. So if you haven't seen, those are starting to go up. It's become a little bit more popular. A twin home is essentially a duplex where you only own one side, not both, and there is no HOA to regulate the other side. So that is one that I'm not a fan of, but otherwise we have a lot of great options going up. Perfect example of how affordable our area is. I've got some clients moving here right now from North Carolina, absolutely amazing folks, and they're able to buy a home in Blaine right now, and they were absolutely blown away that they were able to get a new construction home for pretty much the same exact cost of what their current home is in North Carolina, but it's obviously older, much more dated, and instead they're able to get brand new in a much newer, nicer community. And it's not just about cheaper homes, it is about value. So you're often getting much more house, more land, and more community for your dollar. Now, affordable housing doesn't really mean much if there aren't good jobs, but that's also where the Twin Cities really shines. So why don't we look at the job market and how it's pulling people from bigger metros? But before we move on, if you've made it this far, I'm assuming you probably enjoy this content, so do us a favor, make sure to subscribe, turn on the bell so you don't miss any notifications. I keep you updated on all things happening around the Twin Cities, including new construction developments, fun things to do, real estate market updates, and so much more. So back to that thriving job market. We're currently home to 17 Fortune 500 companies, and if you think about it for a second, for a metro area that's our size, that's a pretty insane concentration of major employers. We've got Target, Best Buy, 3M, United Health Group, General Mills, and the list just goes on. And these aren't just any companies, they're industry leaders providing thousands of really solid jobs. What that means for people moving here is stability. So while no job market is completely recession-proof, it does mean that having a lot of diverse options for employers creates kind of a buffer many other cities simply don't have. So if one sector is going to take a hit, there's going to be opportunities in others. But it's not just the big corporations either. We're seeing some really exciting things happening in the smaller companies as well. The tech scene, for example, in the Twin Cities has absolutely exploded in the recent years. We've got established firms like Code 42 and growing startups that are all attracting talent from both coasts. Also, healthcare is another massive driver of our job market. Of course, you've got the Mayo Clinic down in Rochester, but also locally, we've got giants like United Health Group based out of Minnetonka and several large hospital systems, including Health Partners, Allina, Abbott Northwest, and Children's. So medical professionals have incredible opportunities here. Plus, you've got the University of Minnesota's medical research programs that are also drawing specialists from all around the country. But what makes the job market particularly appealing right now is the mix of traditional employment and remote work. So of course, since 2020, the landscape has changed dramatically all across the country, and companies here have been really quick to adapt to a more remote work or hybrid options. While some have gone back to work, there are still plenty of remote work options available, even if your company is from out of state. A perfect example of this trend that I've seen, I just helped some clients move here from California, for example. One of them works remotely, one of them got a job here locally, so their incomes are actually be able to stay just about the same when they moved to Minnesota. However, their cost of living went down dramatically and the quality of their schools went up considerably. So it was a major win-win for this family. Now, the entrepreneurial scene is thriving too. So Minnesota's always had a really strong culture of innovation. We're the state that gave the world everything from Post-it notes to Post cereal to the pacemaker. The spirit is alive and well today, with co-working spaces popping up all over the Twin Cities and a supportive ecosystem for new businesses. And here's a stat that might surprise you. The Twin Cities metro unemployment rate has consistently stayed below the national average, often by a full percentage point or more. That kind of stability has been drawing people who have experienced the boom and bust cycles in other tech hubs or larger cities. One thing I particularly like about our job market is how accessible it is. So whether you're just starting out your career or you're looking to make a mid-career shift, there's going to be opportunities and resources to help you succeed. Organizations like Minnesota's Technology Association offer training programs, for example, that are helping people transition into the tech sectors regardless of their background. And that brings us to our next big reason that people are moving here, the quality of life. When I talk to people who've recently moved to Minnesota, this is often the thing that surprises them the most. They know about the jobs, they've researched the housing market, but they had no idea how good the quality of life would be right here. So let's start with some basics. Minnesota consistently ranks among the top 4 life expectancy. Our healthcare system is second to none, and it's anchored by world-class providers like that Mayo Clinic, MHealth Fairview, and a whole bunch of others. When it comes to your family's health, it's hard to find a better place to live. Education is another area that we absolutely shine. Minnesota's public schools are consistently ranked among the best in the nation, with many school districts offering above average per pupil funding. So if you've got kids, this is going to be a fantastic place where they can get a great education without needing to shell out for a private school. But what really sets the Twin Cities quality of life apart is our connection to nature. So we've got hundreds of lakes all across the 7-county metro area, and honestly, I'm not losing sleep over exactly how many, because pretty much no matter where you live around the Twin Cities, there's going to be something close. The best weekends in Minnesota are spent outside, maybe enjoying a hike through one of our state parks, swimming at a local beach, biking somewhere new, fishing up north at the cabin, road tripping to some new cool place. There's always something to do, and this is what life in Minnesota is truly all about. Also, shameless plug to my local audience, you can go to hotdishnews.com to get a ton of ideas for fun things to do on the weekend, and you can sign up for the weekly newsletter email if you would like, which gives you a roundup of all the great things happening that weekend. So I write it every single week, pretty much for folks just like me who just want to get outside and enjoy our state. And speaking of biking, the Twin Cities consistently ranks among one of the most bikeable areas in the country. So we've got over 200 miles of dedicated bike lanes and paths. You've got the Grand Rounds National Scenic Byway, which is a 50-mile loop that connects parks and lakes throughout Minneapolis area. And this is the longest urban scenic byway in the entire country. Winter is obviously a consideration for anyone thinking about moving here. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, our winters are serious business. Primarily it's just a cold, but we do get good amounts of snow some years. But here's what coastal folks often don't understand. There are plenty of fun stuff to do in the colder months as well, like ice skating, making snowmen, going skiing and sledding, having bonfires, and of course, checking out all the many museums, indoor roller coasters, and water parks. It's also worth noting that Minnesota actually has the infrastructure to deal with that snow. So while the southern states completely shut down over a little dusting of snow, have you seen our snow piles? Yeah, we're not losing sleep. Now, the park system here is generally remarkable. Minneapolis has been ranked as having the best park system in the United States multiple times, and nearly every resident of Minneapolis lives within a 10-minute walk of a park. St. Paul also isn't far behind. They've got the beautiful Como Park and an expansive Highland Park. And it's not just about quality of life, the quality of the spaces is exceptional as well. Take Minnehaha Regional Park, for example, which has a 53-foot waterfall right in the city. Or you've got Lebanon Hills in Eagan to our south, which has over 1,800 acres of forests, lakes, and trails, including a mountain biking trail that I've been meaning to check out. These aren't just small little neighborhood parks. They're going to be immersive natural experiences within minutes from all the urban amenities. And get this, the Trust for Public Lands Park Score gives Minneapolis the perfect 100 for park access. What this means is that regardless of income, age, or ethnicity, residents have equal access to high-quality parks and green spaces. That kind of opportunity and outdoor recreation creates a better life for everybody. So that's where we're at with quality of life. It's not just about having nice parks and great schools, it's also about the elements that work together to create communities where people can truly thrive. But you might be wondering, what about the urban amenities? Do you have to give up the cultural opportunities of the big city? Well, that's what leads us perfectly into our next point. One concern I'll hear from time to time is from people moving from Chicago, New York, or LA, for example, where they think they're going to miss the cultural scene that they're used to. So let me put those fears to rest for you. The Twin Cities punches way above their weight class when it comes to arts and culture. The Guthrie Theater, for example, is a world-renowned world-renowned venue that draws top talent from around the globe. If Broadway productions are your thing, the Orpheum Theater and Pantages Stage host major touring shows throughout the year. And our museum scene is equally impressive. You've got the Minneapolis Institute of Art, which houses over 80,000 works spanning 5,000 years of world history, and get this, it's totally free. The Walker Art Center is one of the most respected contemporary art museums in the country, with the adjacent Minneapolis Sculpture Garden, which features the iconic Spoonbridge and Cherry sculpture that's become a symbol of our city. And music lovers will find plenty to enjoy here. First Ave is the legendary club where Prince got his start, and it continues to host cutting-edge artists. The Minnesota Orchestra is Grammy Award-winning and internationally acclaimed, and our local music scene is diverse and thriving, from hip-hop to folk and indie rock. But what makes these cultural amenities even more appealing is how accessible they are compared to bigger cities. So if you want to go see a major concert at the Target Center, for example, you can probably find tickets without having to take out a second mortgage. Interested in trying that new restaurant everyone's talking about? Well, you might actually be able to get a reservation without having to wait for months. And speaking of food scene, it has absolutely exploded here in recent years. So we're going well beyond the just Minnesota nice comfort foods, though you can still find plenty of bland dishes if that's what your Scandinavian taste buds prefer. But we've also got James Beard Award-winning chefs that have established incredible restaurants all throughout the Twin Cities. From the innovative Hmong cuisine at Union Hmong Kitchen to the Nordic-inspired dishes at Demi, we've got an amazing dining experience in every type of cuisine, and it's going to be at a fraction of the cost you'd pay in those larger cities. One thing I particularly like about our food culture is how it reflects how diverse the Twin Cities are. The Twin Cities have been welcoming immigrants for generations, and it's reflected in our restaurant scene. You'll find authentic East African cuisine over on the West Bank. You're going to find traditional Mexican restaurants down on Lake Street, some of the best Vietnamese food you've ever tasted over in St. Paul, and my personal favorite, barbecue from Jelly Bean and Julius in Coon Rapids. And get this, even though Minneapolis and St. Paul combined have around 730,000 residents, the entire Twin Cities metro has about 3.7 million people. What that means is you get all of the amenities of major metropolitan areas, but with breathing room. Our population density is simply much lower than Boston and New York, for example, so you're not going to be constantly elbow to elbow with strangers as you might be in more crowded cities. We've got all of the cultural, food, sports, and entertainment options you'd expect from a much larger metro, but without the suffocating crowds and impossible costs. And that brings us to our final reason people are fleeing the big cities for the Twin Cities. If there's one thing pulling people from the big major metros to the Twin Cities, it's going to be for the search of better work-life balance. There's actually a cultural emphasis on the quality of life here that's getting harder to find elsewhere. Minnesota consistently ranks among the top states for happiness and well-being. The average work week here is going to be a bit shorter, and over time, those extra hours go back into your life for family dinners, weekend hikes, or just breathing room. Companies like Target, 3M, and General Mills build work-life balance into their culture with generous PTO, flexible schedules, and offices that generally start emptying out well before 5 o'clock. The seasons shape life here too. We embrace winter, we revel in summer, and actually slow down a little bit during the spring and fall. That rhythm grounds people, and yes, people really do move away and come back. I've actually had many clients who used to live in the Twin Cities that are returning back, and they're generally so excited about it. It says a lot about what people miss when they're gone: the nature, the community, and just the calm pace of life. Every place has its trade-offs, and the Twin Cities is going to be no exception. So let's start with the obvious one. The winters are long, cold, and snowy. January temperatures can dip well below zero, and snow can stack up from November through April. That's a reality that will take some adjustment if you're coming from a warmer climate. But here's how residents approach it. Winter is a season to be embraced, not just endured. Minnesotans are masters of the art of coziness. We've got heated underground parking, skyways connect the downtown buildings, so you don't have to go outside, and homes are going to be built with very high energy efficiency. Winter sports and activities are going to give people reasons to get outside even in those colder months, and like I mentioned, we do have a number of indoor play parks and water parks and roller coasters and different things like that to keep the family entertained. The overall tax burden is higher in Minnesota than in other states, both income and property taxes, so that is going to be one drawback, but the trade-off is going to be our excellent schools, our well-maintained infrastructure, and the robust public services. Most people I work with find that the overall cost of living is still going to be considerably lower from where they're coming from, but it's just something that you're going to factor into your budget. Politically, the Twin Cities are going to be more progressive than the rest of the state, which creates some urban-rural tensions that occasionally affect state policy. Now, I'm not going to get into things politically here, don't really care how you vote, but it is generally a good idea to understand the landscape. So, generally speaking, in the downtown Minneapolis-St. Paul urban core, they tend to vote a little bit more liberal, and then as you get out into the suburbs, generally going to be a little bit more conservative. Overall, people are fairly laid back and accepting of people from all different walks of life and political bents. So there you have it. There's 5 key reasons why people are fleeing the big cities and moving to the Twin Cities. If that's you, or you're local just looking to buy or sell, I would love to have a conversation, see if we're going to be a good fit to work together. You'll find my information in the description down below. Just shoot me an email and we'll get that conversation started. There's also going to be a ton more great content coming up on the channel, so you can find that right here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.